Okay, look, I get it's not Marvel, but it's superhero themed and Christmassy, so I'm trying, alright? It's close enough. Hello, interwebs. It's time for more MCU goodness because apparently we just can't go 2 weeks without more MCU, and I'm not complaining yet. We might hit Marvel fatigue soon enough, but I'm still on the Marvel train for all of this, and I am excited to talk about Hawkeye, because the first 2 episodes of the series premiered tonight, and so I am up at 2 in the morning in Christmas get up to talk about this show with you, so hopefully it's not going to get too loopy. That's why I have some tea right here. I've been actually very excited for this show. I'm kind of surprised. Hawkeye was never a character that I cared much about, but I kind of liked the vibe and sort of more upbeat, fun nature, and also like the Christmassy theme to it. I am someone who just adores a good Christmas theme. I know that people get upset when it appears even before Thanksgiving, which this episode is, but for me, I could take Christmas all the way back as right after Halloween. Like right after the spooky stuff ends, give me some Christmas stuff. I'm here for it. I'm down for it. And on top of that, I've always liked Haley Steinfeld. I think she'll be a cool addition to the MCU going forward, considering she's already got her own spin-off show, I believe, at this point. And Jeremy Renner, he's fine. He's like one of those dudes that Hollywood keeps trying to like make happen, even though he's kind of a boring guy, but I still like him every single time I see him, so let's go in. I'm in on this show. But with that preamble out of the way, let's actually talk about these episodes proper. I'm going to mainly stay spoilery and do like a full recap of both episodes, but to give you my quick little non-spoiler thoughts up front, I actually really liked these 2 episodes. They leaned a little bit more on the comedy aspect than the drama aspect that things like Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier were going for. This is definitely a little bit lighthearted, fun stuff, and I actually really liked that they're really fleshing out Hawkeye as a character. They're really delving into this theme of what makes Hawkeye tick. He feels very human in this story. They make a couple little things that sort of evoke like he is just a down-to-earth hero, being his family and his vulnerability and like his wear and tear that he's faced. I mean, he's got a hearing aid in this show, so I kind of like seeing that things have accumulated on him, as well as the PTSD that have accumulated on him as well. And yet they're also talking about like what Hawkeye means and what he can do, and can he be more than just like the guy that everyone kind of forgets about amongst the Avengers. And I think that that's a cool, fun storyline for this character to go down, as well as also introducing up to Kate Bishop, who in these first 2 episodes I think truly stands out, and I'm just enjoying her. She's by no means like my favorite character ever in Marvel, but I am definitely enjoying her character, and I like seeing more women get to be centered in the Marvel universe going forward, and she's definitely a great addition to that. So I'm definitely enjoying this first few episodes. But with that said, let's get into the nitty-gritty and go through the episodes proper and just discuss some of the little things that I noticed and want to discuss. We start off episode 1, Never Meet Your Heroes, right in 2012 during the Battle of New York from the Avengers movie, which made me feel very old that it was that long ago at this point, and also reminds me like apparently like almost every single MCU movie at this point has to start during the Battle of New York. I mean, we had Spider-Man Homecoming and a few others, I believe, too, that just had this little preamble here. But we basically learned that Kate Bishop lost her father in that event, but she was rescued by Hawkeye during his famous scene on the rooftop in that movie, and that inspired her to get into Hawkeye and be like a big fan of his. Also, I noticed during this opening sequence, like, dang, girl got money. Girl got a lot of money. At least her family does, as we'll see more as we get into the episode. But I also did like the advice that her father gives her. It's like, it's not that you can control the hurricane. You can't control what happens to you. You just have to deal with the choices after that. And I think that that was a cool little thematic setup for her character going forward. Then we get the beautiful title sequence that evokes the Matt Fraction comics from Marvel. I thought that that was wonderful. But then from there, we go into the present day and we meet Kate Bishop again, where she's climbing a tower and just having fun doing, teenage dumb stuff that we all did in college, frankly, except for she has a bow and arrow and is good with it and breaks in essentially a bell tower. Thankfully, again, her family's got money, because if it was a poor student who did that, they'd be kind of screwed. So yay, class. The rich can do whatever they want as long as they pay for it. I joke, but I did think it was a fun moment. But there's a little bit of like, if anyone else had done this, they would have messed up. Then we cut to the best part of the entire thing, which was the Rogers musical, the Steve Rogers Captain America musical that's going on. I mean, apparently Captain America is just made for stage. Even in the Captain America, the First Avenger, he got his own whole musical bit there. But this is just great. The lines there is like, I could do this all day, and to say the magic words, smash, smash, smash. I was laughing at this. The only thing I was down on is like, if that's a Broadway musical, those costumes would be much better. If you've ever been to Broadway, like, come on, they go all out. You could definitely see that they were on like a TV show budget here and not going all out as you get with like the extravagance on Broadway. This must have been like an off Broadway show for that level. But it was very funny. But we also got to see, again, the introduction of Hawkeye's hearing aid, which I mentioned before, and also his a little bit of PTSD seeing Nat on stage. And I also liked immediately after that, he had this scene with his kids where they all went out to dinner, and it showed him being like a normal family guy. And I also liked that his kids were understanding of everything. His daughter particularly was like, we understand if you don't want to see this. Nat was someone that meant a lot to you. And I liked that his kids were kind of aware of their father's, PTSD and trauma, and that he was still a good father after that. It just, you could really get the sense that this was a very warm family, and I really enjoyed that just coming through throughout these scenes. Also, we got a Christmassy montage during this sequence that just warmed my heart, and it made me happy. Again, Christmas all the time for me. But then we get Kate Bishop going back to the city. She comes back to her home to find out that her mother is upset about the bell, obviously, but can pay for it because upper class. And then we also get to meet Jack, who is going to be her new stepfather, as she'll learn in just a moment. And clearly, she doesn't like this guy. He seems a little bit skeevy. I get it. It's the mustache. It's a thing. The mustache is inherently suspicious. But at the party, Kate Bishop is freaking rocking a tuxedo. Like, I was like, dang, okay, girl can rock it. But then she meets a man named Armand Duquesne, Armand the Third, apparently, who gave me like Christoph Waltz vibes in some of his, like, the way he was speaking. But he seemed fairly nice enough, and instantly I'm like, I kind of like this guy. He's probably the villain. Which probably not going to be the case given what happens later on, but that was my instant thought. But he does let slip that his mother is getting engaged to Jack, which sets Kate Bishop off, which seems to have been his intention. Kate argues with mother and then gets sent outside, and we see a cute little one-eyed doggy who is absolutely adorable, and I'm so glad he's in this show. Yes, he's so cute. But then Kate hears a conversation with Armand and her mother. He seems that he's threatening her, so Kate follows him downstairs. Seems a little bit like, okay, girl, like, calm down. You're leading a normal life. You're not trying to do all surreptitious stuff like that. I know this is like a Marvel show, but it feels a little bit quick that this, like, average girl, presumably, would just instantly start, like, sneaking around and doing things. So that would be my one knock against this show, is that it is the heightened world of the Marvel MCU, but it did seem a bit quick for her to, like, be jumping into just surreptitiously sneaking around as just like an average girl, presumably. Speaking of which, during this sequence, it's a funny little sequence where she says, call Gary. Gary finds her and she gets sent off. But also we see the auction there selling Ronin stuff. So there's Ronin's sword and Ronin's suit, which we all know was Hawkeye back from Avengers Endgame and the trauma that he went through when his family was killed during the snap. Again, this seems a little bit convenient in the sense that, like, why are these things here at this moment? I'm hoping that gets answered. And there's also a little bit of tension between Armand and his son Jack. But then the auction gets attacked by, I think, the Tracksuit Mafia. I wasn't entirely clear if this group that was trying to steal this watch and the Tracksuit Mafia were the same group. Or they were two separate groups that just appeared at different times in the narrative. So I was a little bit confused on that. But presumably they're looking for this watch. And Kate Bishop manages to get away with it along with the one-eyed dog in a really cool action sequence. Like, she choreographs her way out of there and steals the Ronin suit. But I will say, it felt... I know she's got training, as we learn a little bit later. But I was sort of, like, thrown out. I was like, again, girl fighting, like, grown dudes. And presumably she just had, like she's a well-trained fighter, I'm sure. But, like, superhero level training, it just seemed a little bit much. But again, we're rolling with the punches in the MCU here. But then she goes back to her own apartment, which again, that apartment is freaking nice for the inner city. And apparently she just inherited from, I guess it was her father's apartment, who just owned an apartment and just had it and gave it to her, and she just is keeping it now. I'm just saying, like, this girl is rich. This girl is just well off. It's a very nice place. But then she decides to go and check on Armand and see what was going on with him. Again, felt a little bit weird to me. It felt, I'm not entirely clear of, like, why she chose to do some of the things that she did. Again, rolling with it, but it seems a little bit trying to make the plot happen. But she does show up at Armand's place, and Armand is dead for some reason. So I guess possibly not the villain, unless he's going to get, turn out to be surprised I was alive the entire time sort of thing later on. And also, she gets a butterscotch, which is going to be important a little bit later on. There's, like, these Armand branded butterscotch. And now I'm realizing that I should do that too. I should have Jessie Gender branded butterscotch. I am deeply disappointed that I have not done that. Then she's attacked by the Tracksuit Mafia and then is rescued by Hawkeye himself, ending out the episode. So, in episode 2, Hide and Seek, Hawkeye and Kate sort of, like, hit it off. Hawkeye's just kind of disgruntled and sort of like, I don't want to be here. I just want the suit. Give me the suit. Let's get out of here. I'll bring you back to your apartment and we'll figure out what's going on. And he's asking her a lot of questions about where she got the suit. I liked their back and forth. Like, I'm not going to go through it beat by beat, but the chemistry between these two is just a lot of fun. And Kate just being kind of starstruck at Hawkeye was kind of nice. And him just sort of being like, come on. He's not rude necessarily, which I kind of liked the nuance of that. It wasn't just like, oh, these kids. It was more just like, come on, I got stuff to do. I have more things going on right now. I want to get back to my kids. It showed that he was a father. He knew how to handle children, or at least younger people, but that he was still a man on a mission and just trying to get things done. So I like Jeremy Renner's performance in here, and they're back and forth throughout all of this. But then they get attacked by the tracksuit mafia, and, Kate gets to show off her skills with the bow and arrow, but her apartment gets set on fire, and so they escape to, I wasn't entirely clear where they went, like a friend of Kate's apartment, and maybe it was set up earlier in the episode or last episode, but I was kind of a little bit confused by where they went. I guess it was like some old lady's apartment that she just knew of. Apparently this girl's just got places all around the city at this point. But Hawkeye starts asking questions about the suit because he apparently wants it a lot, and I guess I'm a little bit lost on why he wants the suit so badly, because I get it, it's like dangerous to have the suit, it could be tracked to him, maybe that sort of thing, but I'm also sort of feeling like this is a world clearly that they even established within this show that people like dress up as the Avengers all the time. So I feel like cosplayers cosplaying as like Ronin, who was like a fairly well-known figure during the blip, wouldn't be that outside the realm of possibility. So why are people that upset about the like actual Ronin suit? And so I know that there's this other thing going on with this watch, which will hopefully get brought into the plot and sort of push things forward a little bit more. But this whole idea that he's just after this Ronin suit was I don't know. It felt a little bit much to me, but maybe it's just sort of him being like, I'll do it, and I won't go with my kids for one day, and I'll just track it down. It seems like a low stakes effort thing for him. But it did seem weird that he's like ruining his time with family, putting himself in danger for a suit that does not seem all that important in the grand scheme of things. But again, maybe I missed something in the narrative that showed why it was important, but I don't think so. But Hawkeye goes to look for the suit back at the burnt out apartment and finds out that it was taken by the firefighters for apparently a LARPing outfit. And I'm just sitting here thinking, LARPers, dang LARPers taking everything. It's cool. I actually love LARPers. I've always wanted to do a LARP really badly, like in my life. Not doing like the action, like fighting ones, but like the actual role playing part of it would be a lot of fun. I always kind of do it. If any of you know like a good LARPing place around Seattle area, please let me know, because I kind of always wanted to do a LARP. That aside though, he goes back to the apartment, talks with Kate a little bit more. Again, he's like superhero dadding all over her. I again liked their back and forth during all of that. But then we see Hawkeye have a scene with his daughter, and he tells his daughter, I promised to be home for Christmas, and his daughter is disappointed. I liked his interaction with his kids, and it does set up the stakes for probably the rest of the season, that he just needs to get this all dealt with so he can be back with his kids by the end of the season. And I'm presuming the final episode of this show will be him with his kids and Kate Bishop sitting there together enjoying a nice Christmas eggnog. That's where I'm assuming this series is eventually trying to lead to. But it's a nice low stakes ticking clock sort of thing that I wish the MCU did more. That it's not like, the galaxy's going to end, but it's like, I just want to get home to be with my kids. Like that's actually like a nice level of emotional stakes that I wish more superhero shows and like these big blockbuster type things would have. That it doesn't always need to be the end of the world. That sometimes we emotionally more resonate with just getting to be home with your family for Christmas. And I also like the phone call that occurs later on in the episode where, he calls his wife and tells her what his plan is. And I like that she's very understanding of his lifestyle. He's like, look, I get it, you're a superhero, you got stuff to do. And she's not like, the typical trope would be to be like, oh, you're disappointing the kids, you're very upset, I'm like, you're distancing yourself from us. It's like, no, I like that the wife is very much like, no, we get it, we understand. This is the life you signed up for. This is the life we signed up for, being your family. And, I'll support you and be here emotionally for you. I think it just felt refreshing. I understand the other trope and why that gets used so much, but it just felt kind of refreshing to see a little bit of a more understanding family dynamic here of that. It felt new and fresh, and I really enjoyed it. But Hawkeye gives Kate his number just for emergencies, and Kate goes up into her mother's security firm, which explains where all the money came from, of course. Jack is there with her mother, and this also felt a little bit weird to me because she acknowledges that Jack's father, Armand, just died the night before, and then she starts instantly antagonizing the guy. And again, I get that she doesn't like him. I get that she might be a little bit suspicious of him killing her father, his father, I should say. So I get that there's some suspicion there, but it doesn't seem to be a lot going on there. It seems a little bit forced. And also, I'm just sort of like, dude, his father just died last night. Like, have a little bit more sympathy, but everyone just seems to be kind of rolling with it. It's like, it's fine. My dad's dead. No big deal. Whatever. Hawkeye then goes to a LARP to try and get his suit back from the firefighter who took his suit, which, by the way, what firefighter would take a suit like that? I don't think they would do that. That's very upsetting to think a firefighter would do something like that. And the guy doesn't get called out for that more. Like, he stole from an apartment. That's kind of crappy. But regardless, this whole bit was kind of fun. I thought it looked down a little bit on LARPers, and I feel like that joke's been played out a little bit. And also, like, the LARPing stuff was done much better on a TV show, Raven's Banquet. If any of you have seen Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet this year, they had a LARPing episode earlier this year. year. And that was a really well done, like, LARP episode that was done on a much lower budget than this. And so this felt kind of like, I get the joke, and it was like, it was fine, but it didn't knock my socks off. But I did really enjoy the moment where, he fights the guy who stole the suit in order to get the suit back, and he lets the guy win. And there's that really nice moment at the end where he says, like, oh man, this was like the best part of my day. You're an Avenger, and I got to like beat you. That was so nice. And Clint also says, like, yeah, it was, I enjoyed this. And it calls back to something earlier in the episode that Kate was saying, is that his issue is branding. But really, I think the more issue is not branding, it's what she says is like inspiration. Like, Hawkeye has the ability to inspire just as much as any of the other Avengers, but he's always been sort of very closed off, kept things close to the chest, because he was like a family man, wanted to kind of keep the world separate and didn't want to be this public figure. And which makes sense for his character. He's always been that reserved guy. But I think where this show is going to be taking him is going to be like, no, you can be the inspiring figure just as much as Rogers was with his dang musical. And so I think that that's, like, again, a cool theme to hit on here. And I like that it was sort of subtly played into this LARPing scene. Then we get a scene with Kate, Jack, and her mother at dinner, and Kate really, again, antagonizes this guy heavily. Like he's lying, he's not doing anything. I get that he's, like, you don't like him as a stepfather, and I get, like, the show seems to be pushing that he's the villain here, and I have a theory about that, but I really feel like, girl, his father just died, like, calm down. But then they decide to have a sword fight right in the middle of their living room, and he lets her win, and she proves that he was lying by making him parry, that he was like knocking things aside. And then she also sees that he has one of the butterscotch candies, which makes her think, like, he probably killed his father, which I'm sitting here thinking is like, well, of course he would let you win. He's trying to be the good stepfather. And of course he would have a butterscotch candy. It's his own freaking family's branded butterscotch candy. Of course he would have one. So what I'm thinking here is this is an intentional red herring, because all of this stuff can very easily be explained. And I think the show knows that. So I actually don't think, even though all signs are pointing to Jack being the bad guy, I actually don't think he's going to be the bad guy. I actually twist here. I think the mother might be the bad one here. She's running a security firm. She seems a little bit distant. She was arguing with Armand, and then Armand shows up dead the next day. If I had to put bets on things, I think Jack's actually a really cool dude, and the mother, Kate Bishop's mother, is actually the bad one here. But then Hawkeye gets captured by the Tracksuit Mafia, which, by the way, hilarious name. I actually thought that was hysterical. And he has everything under control, and he's going to beat them. But then Kate gets a call from the cops saying that, asking questions about why her apartment is burned down. So she calls Hawkeye and learns that he's been kidnapped and doesn't realize that there's a plan going on. So she illegally tracks him, which I guess she just has the ability to do. You remember that thing in The Dark Knight where we said it was bad to use cell phones to track people? Well, now it's so normalized that kids are doing it, so it's fine. It's whatever. It's okay. We live in a dystopia. It's fine. Anyways, she tracks him down, ruins the plan, and they both get kidnapped, and then we see that we have our possibly a main villain, or at least the leader of the Tracksuit Mafia, who is this deaf woman, or at least appears to have hearing problems woman, who stares in the camera menacingly to end the episode, which I'm actually really curious. She seems pretty cool. So at the end of the day, if you can tell from my review, I'm very positive on the show, but I do have some caveats and questions, namely, like, some of the goals and, aims of our characters were a little bit off in terms of, like, I wasn't entirely clear why it was so important, and also why characters were doing certain things, like Kate sneaking into areas, as well as her being, very upset and suspicious of Jack. And it seems like the plot just trying to heighten these things or sort of skirt over them without us realizing it in order to, like, get us to the plot. But on the whole, the dynamic is fun. I really enjoy the characters. I'm enjoying this world that they're inhabiting, this sort of like lower level stakes. And also the themes and character arcs that we set up for both Kate as well as Hawkeye seem to be like actually really good and interesting ones to explore that I hope this series really manages to bring to fruition. And I just also like the holiday veneer on an MCU story. It's not something we've really seen in the MCU, a holiday type themed show. And so overall, again, I have some issues with it here and there in terms of its plotting, but I'm generally positive on it. I had fun, I had a good time, and I'm excited to see where it goes next. But with all that said, that's everything that I was thinking about this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well down in the comments below. Did you like this episode? Did you love it? Do you want more Christmassy stuff? Are you I don't even know the thing that Scrooge says because I'm not a Scrooge. I like Christmas too much. I tried to say it. Bah humbug. I said it. Are you bah humbug? It's 2 a.m. I'm going to wrap this out. If you hate Christmas, comment too. I love you as well. Everybody live long and prosper. Don't forget to subscribe.